How's it going, everybody? Trevor Hubbs with the Armed Forces Initiative. Today we're doing a book review, and we were talking about The Sea Wolf by Jack London. So you probably remember Jack London from middle school or high school. He wrote White Fang, he wrote Call of the Wild. They're both amazing books that kind of personify Jack London's own experience, leaving the very cultivated, very civilized California for the gold rush in the Northwoods, and then coming back and kind of himself getting wilder and wilder and more in tune with the wilderness and the wilderness kind of way of life, and then having to come back to civilization. I think that's both those books are a great kind of metaphor for the veteran experience of leaving the civilian world, going into very detailed, more of a wild, if you will, military life, and then having to come back and readjust. I think there are some very interesting parallels there. But today we're talking about the sea wolf, which is a different kind of metaphor for life. So the sea wolf involves a character that's based on Jack London and another character also based on Jack London. So you have a young man that's really kind of like prissy or uppity in California, falls off of a ferry boat in San Francisco, gets picked up by a whaling ship called the Sea Wolf. Well, not really a whaling ship, it's a sealing ship. They're hunting seals. Anyway, same concept. So at the time, this was fairly common, but like the ship is headed out of harbor. So he's on it. They're not turning around. They got a schedule to keep. So he's on that ship for the next 18 months until they come back to San Francisco, and which is a highly probable thing that could have happened to anybody in a similar situation. But because he's now stuck on board this sealing ship with seal hunters and boat rowers and just this kind of rough and tumble crowd, and he's not really from that environment, it's a very interesting transition for him. And he ends up meeting the boat captain, who is also based on Jack London, but it's kind of the two versions of Jack London meeting. There's the young and inexperienced Jack London from an uppity California neighborhood, meeting the grizzled Northwoods, kind of brutal Jack London that he becomes when he goes up for the gold rush. Even though this has nothing to do with the gold rush, if you read all of kind of Jack London's works, you'll understand what I mean. Anyway, so it's a great story about how this young man kind of takes to the sea. He learns what he has to learn. He adapts, becomes one of these members of the crew on the sealing vessel. They end up picking up another castaway female. Then the younger character and the female end up escaping, living on one of these Arctic islands, which is a whole other interesting thing. And he has to fend for himself for the first time really ever, learns how to hunt, learns how to shoot seals, build structures, ends up working his way back to San Francisco and doing all right, while the older version of himself kind of dies. And you see like the character development is so good in this book, as you see the young man becoming an adult, more of the traditional sense, like a man, and you see the older ship captain. You see the complexity of all the hardships and the tragedies that have made him into the hardened person that he is, really the bad person. He is the antagonist of the book. And when you realize that both characters are based on the author, you can kind of see the internal struggle that Jack London's going through. Even if you don't want to take all the metaphorical stuff aside, book about a guy who gets picked up by a sealing ship and basically held captive for 18 months and is treated quite brutally, and works his way through and escapes. So just based on that novelization story, well worth the read. You're going to burn through it quick. I know it looks kind of thick, but Jack London, it's well written. It's easy to follow. And look, there's pictures. So all you 11 Bravos should be just fine. Anyway, Sea Wolf, Jack London, go ahead and pick it up at the library or get it on Amazon like a normal person. Go read it. Thanks.